Welcome home, brave heroes. I'm Ash, this is HeroQuest, and I'm very proud to present a very special interview with AelfricHQ. AelfricHQ, who are you? And please introduce yourself to anybody who has not had the chance to check out your channel, your content just yet.
So AelfricHQ developed out of when Matt and I started playing again this year. Matt had not been through the original quests, and I wanted to go back and refresh my memory on what those quests were like. And I'd been playing D&D recently, and I'd been watching Matt Colville and Mike Shea, Sly Flourish do campaign prep videos in which they kind of told the story of what their campaigns were like and what things they did to modify the campaign material they were using, and then what kinds of adjustments they would make after having run the campaigns. And I thought that would be really useful for HeroQuest. And I went looking for something like that, and I found some playthroughs of quests where people were playing the game for like 3 hours, but I didn't find any concise summaries. So as Matt and I were playing, I thought this would be something that would be helpful for people. A lot of people don't run a quest more than once. And so having some sort of tips and insights into what makes the quest interesting, how to make the quest fun, how to tune the quest for their particular play group would be useful. So that's kind of where this channel started. And I actually didn't tell Matt I was going to start it, partly because I had some things that I was working on with groups at work that were not going well. And so I kind of wanted something I could just do. So I actually recorded a couple of videos and I sent them to Matt, and I said, so I did this thing. Do you want to join in? And he was like, yeah. So that was kind of where our channel started, and the original vision for the channel. We've since done some other things, right?
Yeah. So yeah, like Dave said, we were probably 3/4 of the way through the original quest pack when I got an email saying, yeah, I did this thing, watch this video, check it out, contribute if you want. And then, we had a little discussion about it later on, and Dave was, he said he had run into the problem in the past that I guess that we all have at some point doing group projects at school or work where not everyone contributes equally. And so he's like, I decided to just do this on my own. If you want to contribute, fine, but otherwise there's no pressure. And then what he had originally planned of just kind of going through the quests is a one-person job. He was Zargoning the original quests, and he had his opinions on what worked and didn't work, and that was great. So if I was going to contribute, I needed to come up with some ancillary things to throw in on the side. So some rankings of his home rules and things like that, and it's just kind of grown from there.
Yeah, I'm still trying to talk Matt into doing a Matt Rank Stuff set of videos where he does rankings of a bunch of random stupid things like the furniture in the game and the card art. I haven't quite got him there yet. We'll see if we can get a Matt Rank Stuff series going along the way. And I thought it's been really useful and interesting. Matt said that one-person job recording these reflections, but there were definitely some quests where Matt had really strong opinions about things that happened in the quests, and you can see that we added a couple of those in too, and we've been able to do some collaborative stuff where I'll record part and then he'll record part, but we do try to do where each of us is recording our own thing so that we can kind of do it on our own time and when we have the energy and really feel like we can put something out that's useful. So
I would like very much to know how you have found HeroQuest. What is your HeroQuest origin story? What was your first encounter with it? What was it like playing the game for the first time? Let me hear all about it.
How I found HeroQuest. Yeah. I mean, I came to HeroQuest probably around the same time a lot of us did in the early 1990s. I got the board game as a kid with my dad, and he Zargoned for me. I don't think we ever actually finished all 14 original quests. We played a bunch though, and then I kind of always had it in a closet somewhere. I never had a group of friends that would play it with me or anything like that, so it sat around, and every once in a while I'd try to bust it out and play it with some people, but like I said, it was hard to get a group. I'm sure we've all had this trouble where it's hard to get a consistent group going to get through that many quests. So long story short, between the early 1990s and this past year, I really hadn't played it much. It just kind of sat around, and it was always something I was like, oh, that's a cool game. I wish I could finish it. And this is just talking about the base game. I never got into any of the expansion. I didn't know the expansions existed, quite frankly, until Dave got me into all of this stuff. So yeah, and then Dave and I met 4 or 5 years ago ish.
Yeah, something like that.
And yeah, and he and his wife and me and my wife, we all became friends and all have a love of board games and stuff. So we would start playing, having board game nights and things. And then pretty early on, he noticed HeroQuest on my shelf, and we got into a little conversation about it. And then just this past year, he wanted to pick it up again. He suggested we get a little campaign going. And like I said, for the past 30 years, I was waiting to complete all of these quests, and I was thrilled to do it. And then all the expansions and stuff that go with it, and I've just kind of fallen down the rabbit hole again, thanks to this guy.
Well, and so, and something people should know about Matt is that he is a completionist. He needs to see every room, and he needs to fight every monster. So, it's kind of fun to play with him because it's like we are going to do all of the things, and doesn't matter if it gets repetitive at some point. Like, that's part of the journey. Is like, I want to experience the repetitiveness, so I know all of the things about the game. So it's nice because I played a lot growing up. I actually played this game quite a bit. My origin story, I didn't actually own a copy of HeroQuest until very recently, although I had 5 copies of HeroQuest, was that I bought a copy of the D&D 2nd edition player's handbook from a bookstore one day when I was maybe 8 or 10 years old. And I had it in my room and I was reading it. And my uncle at the time was staying with us, and he saw the book and he told my mother the story that comes from the Chick track about D&D. So I don't know if people know, there's a religious conservative cartoonist who used to write like anti various aspects of pop culture comics, and the one about D&D has a character who ultimately tries to leave the group and is killed by the group. And he told my mom that this is the sort of thing that was happening with D&D, and it was right, at the time when the New York Times was writing about D&D and the Satanic Panic was happening, all that sort of stuff. So my mom made me take that book back, and so I never got to play D&D. And some of my friends had HeroQuest, so we would go and we would play that. It was sort of like our it was our alternative to D&D. It was our option that we had, and my mom wasn't super comfortable with it, but because the other moms were okay with it, she kind of let it slide. Well, the 2 people I knew who owned this game had older brothers, which meant that they played through all of the quests when I was not around. And so they were kind of done with the game when I was still hyper interested in it. And so in my early 20s, I started designing quests, and they'd already played through all of the campaigns and all of the expansions. So I started designing quests for them to play through because I really wanted to play this game, and they were bored with all of the basic components. So I was already designing like level up features and various sort of house rules at that point. And at one point, I still have all 5 boards that these 2 friends had between them. And I had designed a 5-board quest that we played through. It took us 2 days, about 16 hours of gameplay. So that was sort of my my introduction to HeroQuest, was as an alternative to D&D, and maybe that's where my love of house ruling, extensive leveling systems, and outside of the game features where you get to choose which quest you're going on and that sort of thing comes from. So, yeah. We can talk more about the Satanic Panic some other time.
What drives you to continue to enjoy the game today? What about HeroQuest in particular is interesting enough to you to actually want to create content about it, to not only play the game and kind of analyze it, but also produce content surrounding the game?
What drives me to keep being interested in is, I mean, like I was saying before, I've never done it before. I've never played any of this stuff. So aside from maybe the first 7 or 8 quests in the original pack, it's all brand new to me. And so then we moved on to the Frozen Horror, the Mage of the Mirror, Keller's Keep, a little, all of these other expansions that until recently I didn't know existed. So yeah, I'm psyched to do them. I'm psyched to see what's going on in there.
Yeah, and we've actually had a lot of fun. We flipped the script recently, Matt's Zargoning for me, and we've had a lot of fun. I played through, I can never remember the name of it, Dread Moon as the heroes, and it was a blast because even though I haven't actually played through these quests, I've spent so much time sort of fantasizing about playing through the quests, looking through the quest books, that I felt like it would be disingenuous to run the heroes. Like I wouldn't get that sense. Like I'd be like, I don't know this board, and then like we'd be 3 rooms in and I'd be like, oh, I remember this board. This is the one where blah 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 happens. So with the original quest, I was like, all Zargon. But the thing that's kept me coming back to HeroQuest is, more than anything, I think the potential to make the game your own. And so this is one of the things I think, Ash, that you really highlight about the game in all of the content that you do. And part of the reason why our series includes the sort of house rules interspersed in there is that there's a lot of the game rules are really simple, and there's a lot of flexibility in terms of how to make the gameplay interesting, to freshen things up, to liven things up. Right now we're using a set of house rules for leveling that I developed, and then Matt modified. So we tried it 2 different ways, and we'll kind of talk eventually on the channel about some of the things that we did. But we're, Prophecy of Telor and Spirit Queen's Torment just came out, and those are leveled up heroes. We'd have to make major modifications to play through those. So we might even run new heroes, and if we do, I might buy like the Axiom Quest skill boxes or some other homebrewers content and just try it out. We're getting to the point now where we've got 60 quests or something under our belts, so it's starting to get to the point where, like, for a long time I always thought, well, I would just want to play with my own original stuff, but I'm getting to the point now where I'm like, I kind of want to try other things that other people are doing too. So that creativity, that optionality is one of the things that drives me. And then as far as creating content, the main thing is, I just figured there's no one doing this. There's no one saying, here's what the quest runs like. Here's how you could modify it to make it more exciting, more interesting for your heroes. And so I just wanted to provide that along the way. And now we have kids unboxing stuff, and apparently people like that, since it's like our second most popular type of content that we create. It's kids unboxing things.
Well, it's been great having Terry. Terry is he's like a gaming savant. I mean, he's good at everything, but he really picks up gaming strategy pretty quickly for someone his age. And it's a lot of fun playing with him, and I've let him, Dave, you have more experience with this obviously than I do, but I've let him Zargon for me a handful of times and let him run his own quests. It's fun. He started playing it when he was 4. He's 5 now. And then my son Nathan, who just made an appearance on one of our recent videos, is 3. So I've kind of gotten him into it, which has renewed my interest as well. And have to modify things a bit more for him because he can't read yet, and he has a much shorter attention span. So it's kind of like a procedurally generated dungeons. I don't do any actual planned out maps, so just let him go room to room and see what he finds. And but he loves it. He loves rolling the dice and counting and stuff, and so that sort of a thing at those many different levels of development, and we'll talk more about this, I guess, in a bit, is great for them and a lot of fun for us, both as dads and as game players.
I agree. And I started Terry playing this game partly because playing things that little kids do bores me. And I figured that this would be a way to push his reading a little bit. And turned out I didn't really need to push it. By the time that we started playing, he could already read all the cards and stuff. So it was not really a push, but that was kind of the plan with it. So anyway, that worked out really well.
Obviously, you played the original HeroQuest. What kind of changes did you enjoy seeing between the old and the new? What kind of features do you think that Avalon Hill have brought to the game that you are really in support of, that you think really needed to happen? And what have you seen in the changes that you probably would have done differently yourselves, if any?
So in terms of changes, I think Matt and I are both sort of curmudgeons in the sense that we like our retro games and our retro minis and our retro furniture. I really like the cardboard plastic furniture. But I do like the size of the new board, and I specifically like the size of the new board with the old furniture and doors and things because they just fit a little bit better on it. One thing I noticed is there is, on the old board, there is a boot in the hallway. This is very important to me and probably to no one else in the game who plays this game. There's a boot in the hallway, and that boot appears on one of the treasure cards. Inside that boot is a gem, and it is accurately represented in a different scale in the hallway. And the new board does not contain that boot, and that is very disappointing to me. However, on the plus side, I really like the fact that they have alt-gender sculpts for the heroes. I wish that those had been released, and I expect that they eventually will be, but I wish that they had all been released either with the game or as a sort of optional component. It's fun. Neither of our wives love playing this game, but it's fun to be able to hand my wife a female barbarian and say, you can play this if you want. It's also fun for us. Like, we switch them up. We have, both genders on the board. So that's a nice feature of the new game. But honestly, most of the stuff seems pretty much the same. Cosmetic differences really between the sort of base games to my eyes. So
Yeah, and as far as like gameplay wise changes that they've made over the years in the expansions, the original game had, a certain simplicity to it. And it was kind of hard to build on that, I guess, because the first couple of expansions, or I'm sure as, people homebrewed their own quest, it's like, well, what do you do to build the difficulty? How do you scale things, or just put more monsters in the room, or, things like that. But with some of the newer releases, they've added new mechanics, and they're kind of, I guess they've accepted who their audience is. It's not necessarily geared towards little kids anymore. They're playing on the nostalgia that all of us old people are now playing the game, and we have a better grasp of game mechanics and a better ability to understand and strategize. And so, like with Rise of the Dreadmoon, there's a lot of new mechanics that they implemented, some of which worked and some of which didn't, for us anyway. I'm sure we'll talk about that in an overarching Dreadmoon video, and then specifically in quests when we get to that. And be interesting to hear what other people thought of like the disguise mechanic and the reputation points. And all of the, the things that they added in like that.
Yeah. In some ways, actually, Dreadmoon 2 felt like they they recognized their audience was 40 somethings arguing over the rules, as I think you put it, Ash, in one of your videos. But in other ways, they still wanted it to maintain the sort of accessibility for younger folks. And one of the things making these videos has taught me is how hard it is to aim at multiple demographics, not even just in terms of age, but in terms of gaming groups. So Matt and I are playing heads up, and there's a lot of rules that work really well heads up that don't work if you've got 4 heroes and 1 Zargon. The idea that you might share treasure amongst yourselves works really well. Heads up, it can work well with 4 players. The mechanic in Bastion of Chaos where there's bounties, that dungeon is really easy and really boring heads up. And I mentioned in the video that I made on it, like, if I was to run it again heads up, what I would do is I would have Zargon controlled mercenaries who were running around the board trying to collect bounties so that the heroes had somebody they were competing against. But if you have a group of 4 that's collaborating too, you still have the same problem. If they're not sharing treasure, it's a whole different thing. I'm
sorry to interrupt. If I could just interject for 1 second, because I completely disagree, but I think it's a very specific to our experience. When we played that quest, you had just recently implemented your leveling system, and your leveling system is very expensive to my heroes. So I was psyched to be in there getting as much gold and bounties as I possibly could. So I did not find that quest boring from my perspective at all. But
sure, it was fun, but like, where's the challenge in that? And that's another thing, right? So like, when I designed my leveling system, I expected Matt to have the same perspective that I had, which was the heroes are going to die every 3 quests. And like, if you get to level 3, your hero's a badass. And Matt was like, no, I'm collecting all 10 levels and there's nothing you can do to stop me. so that idea that the way players play, really, like, it's hard to guess at that when you're making a quest pack. So I guess that's a little off topic, but I feel strongly about that. So there you go.
Again, yeah. I mean, you said earlier that I'm a completionist. I was fully prepared going into the very beginning of our campaign to let my heroes die and then bring them back anew in the next quest, because they were the same hero. You know, the dwarf dies, the dwarf comes back. It's a new dwarf, we'll give him a new name, whatever, but he comes back, he's the same character. But once you started giving me levels and then I was going to lose those levels and have to start over, no, I'm a completionist. I want everything.
Well, and see, I thought, like, you know, you get the dwarf and you pull a level and you get a mind point and you're like, oh man, it's 700 gold to the next level, but he could just die and then it would be 500 gold to a good level instead.
Yeah, so, I suppose maybe I drew good levels at the beginning and it kind of colored my opinion.
Yeah.
I didn't want to give them up.
Yeah. So anyway, I guess shameless plug, go watch our level up videos.
As an educator, do you think that HeroQuest provides any sort of opportunity to be used as a tool for learning in any context? Can you use this to teach concepts of any kind to children?
Oh, wow. Everything.
Yeah.
You know, we talked a little bit before about working with our young sons, basic reading, basic counting, things like that. I got my start in RPGs in general with Dragon Warrior on the NES. And so, you know, counting your gold, all the same things that are done with HeroQuest, counting your gold and planning for a purchase of equipment or something like that, reading a map and trying to figure out where you're going. All of these things are great skills to teach young kids, and it's a great fun way to reinforce that practice.
Yeah. So I agree with Matt, but I also would say nothing, in the sense that, like, all of these skills can be learned somewhere else. So, like, there's not something that I would say HeroQuest teaches specifically. But if HeroQuest engages somebody, then it's a great way to learn and to motivate on things. My son's learning computer skills right now because he uses HQ Scribe to make his levels. And I've told him we're going to get a typing program, because he needs to learn to type so he can type up his quest notes and things like that. Right now, I think he's skimping on quest notes. Like, he has ideas in his head. In fact, I played a really brilliantly designed quest by him the other day that I think was sort of off the cuff, because he had planned in his head what he was going to do. I fought mirrored heroes, right? So I walked into the mirror dimension, and there were the heroes lined up to fight against my heroes. But the way he set it up made it really interesting strategically, because the heroes only woke up as my heroes walked through. So I walked in with the dwarf first, and the dwarf woke up, and the other three were still standing there, impervious to damage, but also not fighting in the combat. And that stuff's really cool. But it's good to think about, plan out, and write out ahead of time. Otherwise, like, we also had an argument over how traps worked, because he had made special battle axe traps that he could not clearly articulate, like, what the conditions for disarming the trap were. So, but learning experience, one of the things that's been really cool watching him is he got his first TPK against me in the very first quest he designed specifically for me, because he sent my brand new heroes against 3 ogres and 3 wolves. And he could see it coming from about the 3rd round of combat, and he didn't like it because I wasn't going to see the rest of his dungeon. And so he was like, I don't want your heroes to die. And I said, why not? You're Sargon. You're supposed to kill the heroes. And he said, well, you won't get to see the rest of it. I said, well, it's all good. We'll just send some more heroes in after those heroes, and they'll try to, avenge them. But we'll power them up first. And I said, we'll talk about some options after this battle. So we fought the battle out. We killed my heroes off, and I was able to model, not being upset, not, flipping the board over my heroes dying, that sort of thing. But then we talked about the idea that you can modify on the fly. And like, if you look at a room and you think, 7 Chaos Warriors, all with bonus stats, is going to be a little too much for heroes with 1 body point left. Like, you can turn those into goblins if you want to. And he's been doing that. He's been showing me the board after, and he's showed me the changes he's made, and he's getting good very quickly at making those changes on the fly. So that is really cool, because that's a very important skill to meet people where they're at, to see, what's appropriate for them, and try to find how to communicate with them, or how to, participate with them in a way that's fun for them as well. Anything else, Matt, on that one?
No.
I'm gonna sick brag about Matt, because he's really good at designing interesting puzzles and problems for kids. And then Terry spends a lot of time trying to figure out how to replicate those secret codes. Matt's really good at secret codes that kids can break and can figure out the puzzle. And then Terry's at home typing nonsense and then saying it's a secret code, and he's like, here, you got to read my secret code. And I'm like, dude, I have no idea what's going on here, man. So we've had a lot of fun with that. He's really good at it. So if you need puzzles for your kids, commission Matt. He'll make you some great ones.
Clues are easy. Appropriately spaced clues that don't give it away immediately, but let the person figure it out slowly. That's the trick.
Yeah. Matt and I have failed on puzzles for each other a couple of times, I think. I had one in a recent quest where I was like, roll a knowledge check with your hero that's in the room. Then I told him what he was supposed to do, because he was going to die. And I had one where... Go ahead. I walked into an empty room, and I was prepared to search it thoroughly. And then a lot of monsters showed up all at once, every turn.
And because I wasn't prepared from the jump at that battle, falling behind by just like 2 turns kind of overwhelmed that room. So yeah, Dave had to give me a little hint.
Yeah. And then Matt designed one for me where there were like spawn points and falling rock traps. And I think I triggered every single falling rock trap. I think he gave me the last one, like I threw a dagger at the floor or something so that I didn't take damage from it, but I just was sure there was a secret door out of the room, and there wasn't. There were just falling rock traps behind every door, and I didn't figure it out. So anyway, all right. So learning stuff. We're learning stuff all the time.
Where do you see your YouTube content going? Where would you like to see your channel in 6 months, in a year? Do you have any short-term plans or long-term plans that you'd like to share or tease at this time?
I do. Do you, Matt?
Have content to tease?
Yeah. I have some stuff I'm really excited about coming up.
Nothing specific on my end. I mean, I'm going to kind of react. Well, since we flipped and I was Zargon recently, I'm also going to start doing the Witch Lord, which was the first quest pack I ran you through.
Yeah.
So I'm going to start planning on those, but you've got Frozen Horror to come first. So
yeah, well, we can run those concurrently too. That would be something we could certainly do to start getting those out there. So I have a love of multi-board dungeons, and I mean like multi-board concurrent dungeons, and I don't know if anyone else does. Like, I know, Ash, that you've said before that there's such a thing as too long a dungeon. And while I kind of agree now because I'm an old man, like in theory, there's no such thing as too long a dungeon. If I had an extra room, there would definitely never be such thing as too long a dungeon. But my write-ups, and I say write-ups because it's about 40 minutes worth of content, probably 20 to 30 from me, and then 10 to 15 from Matt, on our first multi-board dungeon that he and I played, are coming up. In fact, part of it might be out by the time that this video is circulating. And what I've done, I really like this idea. I've always wanted to play the Wizards of Morcar quest pack. So I took the boards from the Wizards of Morcar quest pack, and because they're all towers, but they're one dungeon, I've been expanding them. So the area of the Stormlord in our world is a 3-board dungeon, and those boards aren't you run one and then you take a break and you run the next one and then you take a break. No, all 3 boards on the table at once. You got to move up and down between them. You can use pit traps to get up and down. You can use stairs to get up and down. You have objectives you have to accomplish that are time sensitive on multiple boards. So you got to have heroes running everywhere. I think it's fun. But then again, I am the guy from that, Why HeroQuest is so great video. So,
It's still my favorite of the multi-board dungeons that we've run so far. We've done a few of them now, both homebrewed and from quest packs, and I think that one still is my favorite.
Yeah, I spent the most time on it. It was a home run concept too. So I'm looking forward to that. And then as far as where I see the channel in 6 months to a year, I hope production value will go up because Matt and I are both learning how to edit videos. Like everything you've seen, like we've learned this year. I still have literally no equipment. I'm recording on a laptop with my Bose noise canceling headphones and the microphone from those. So I don't even have a real microphone that I'm working with. So hopefully production quality going up, but like, I really want to be the guys that you go to when you don't have time to watch somebody play through a quest, but you need some quick hits on, like it's game night tonight and we're running Legacy of the Orc Warlord. And I need to know, like, what should I be aware of? What are some things where the quest book is a little ambiguous, and how did other people resolve those? And it's a 5-minute video and you can listen to it or watch it, whatever you've got time for. So I want to be that niche because I don't think there's anyone else doing that.
Whether dungeon crawler or just typical standard classic board game, do you have any other games that you play, at least semi-regularly, when you're not playing HeroQuest? Are there other board games, are there video games that you enjoy playing in your downtime?
Matt's got some tricks up his sleeve. I'll let him answer this one first.
Boy. Okay. What other, well, let's see, other dungeon crawlers or classic board games? So, I mean, I mentioned before that my wife and I and Dave and his wife have other board game nights. So we play a lot of the classic board games. Settlers of Catan is a favorite. Ticket to Ride, Libertalia, which we call the pirate game.
That's amazing. Yeah.
Yeah, we love board games like that. So we've whatever we're in the mood for on a particular night. As far as personally, I mentioned before Dragon Warrior, how I got my start. So I played all of those, and then when it became Dragon Quest, all the way up through 11 was the most recent one a few years ago. And Super Mario Maker, I do a little platforming, so I play on that on the Switch, and I'm getting Nathan to play Mario too. His platforming skills are coming along. What else? Final Fantasy. I got into Final Fantasy after Dragon Warrior, and I liked Final Fantasy up until they gave up on the turn-based battle mechanic. I know that's how you know you're an old man, right? Because I can't do the hack and slash real-time battles. What else? What else do I play? I don't know.
Well, the main thing that Matt hasn't said is that not only does he play Mario Maker, but he speed runs Mario levels, and he's quite good at it. He has a lot of the records for a lot of levels, and most of the levels he makes, I can't even attempt. So he's really good at designing pretty hard, pretty challenging. Like it falls in line with the puzzle stuff, right? There's a lot of sort of puzzle, but there's also a lot of technical skill involved in the levels that he makes. So that's why I said he's got a few tricks up his sleeve.
I mean, there's a lot of really, really good Super Mario players out there that stream on Twitch and YouTube, and I wouldn't quite put myself up there with those guys. But yeah, I'm a fairly decent Mario player.
Yeah. So as far as games I play, Matt's hit some of the board games. We like some old classics around here as well. Terry got Mancala for Christmas, which is a stone moving game. I don't know if either of you know that game. I've got Agricola in the cupboard. We played a lot of that when we lived in Texas with some friends down there, and I really wanted to play it with Matt and Nikki, but I got it for Christmas around the same time that Nathan was born. So then we had two small children, and basically board games as a group disappeared, and they're only sort of just beginning to come back now that we're kids are getting a little bit older. But the games we're playing are different too. Like we played Apples to Apples recently because the kids could play it. When I'm on my own, I play a lot of Slay the Spire. It scratches the itch that Magic scratches for me, and I basically don't play Magic anymore because when I played Magic, it was literally all I did. When Ikoria was out during the pandemic, I drafted over 100 drafts. But I have a lot of fun playing Magic. I have a cube. And I used to play a lot of Warhammer. I still have a few models. I'm looking for a way to put them on the HeroQuest board. Obviously, it's easy enough to do, but the problem is Matt doesn't like painted miniatures, and they're all painted, so his heroes will get especially vicious when those miniatures hit the battlefield. So,
to judge, I don't like painting my miniatures. If you've already painted yours, there's nothing I can do about it.
Yeah. I like to tease him about it because he's like, just give me the red and the gray and the white and the green.
Just that old school bare bones style, something about that just hits me the right way.
Well, and to be fair, like that's been HeroQuest for me always. It was a shocker to me to realize that people painted their HeroQuest minis, because I see it as a board game, whereas like Warhammer is a minis game, so I see them kind of differently.
What made you want to be a content creator? What was the spark that said this needs to be something that's on YouTube and presented to an audience?
I kind of already touched on this, but I'll say it again, because I think it's like I'd thought about content creation before and just thought like there's not a niche, right? Like I was like, when I was running D&D every week, I was like, I could do a YouTube channel on D&D, but there's the D&D content creator space is just jam packed, and there's people already doing it who are way better at it than me, and they're doing the same kind of thing that I find useful. Nobody is doing this with HeroQuest. So I was like, I don't know if anybody wants to watch these, but I wanted to watch them. And they seemed fun to make, and they also seemed easy to make. Boy, that was a mistake. They're not easy to make when you start figuring you got to throw in overlays and things like that. For a 5-minute video, it's about 6 hours of editing. So maybe that's just because I'm really bad at it. But it's like 1 hour for the audio and then 2 to 3 hours. So I said 6, maybe it's 3 to 4 hours of editing, 2 to 3 hours for the overlays and things like that. So yeah, so that was the thing, is there was a niche that needed to be filled, and probably now I'm the first guy who did it. So like, or we're the first guys who did it. So like,
You're the first guy.
Yeah, okay. I'm the first guy, you're the second guy, but we're a team doing it. So like now I'll probably do it, even if somebody else who's better at it steps into the space. Some other things that I think there's space for in content creation with board games is like, especially with HeroQuest, like I want to do some data analysis of the monster usage, the board space usage. Matt calculated the number of possible combinations of rooms, because I always complain that nobody uses the overlays to change room structures, and it's insane. There's millions and millions of possible room structures with just the board as it is, and still I think people should use board overlays to change the shapes of rooms. And I still don't understand why Hasbro hasn't printed a board overlay that overlays the whole central roundabout and central chamber, so that you have a 7x6 central chamber rather than a 5x6 central chamber. But whatever. So those are some things I'd like to do. Those are some of the things that keep me kind of interested. I thought this was a very, like, when I started this, I thought this is a very concrete project. It has a starting point and a finishing point. Once we've done all of the quests, we're done. But the rabbit hole goes really deep once you start like making stuff. You just see more options for making things. So yeah. Matt, anything to add?
No, I'm just along for the ride. The spark that got me into it was your first email, and we'll see where it goes from there. I mean, we in our own campaign, we've got 4 or 5 quest packs under our belts, plus some homebrewed levels and dungeons. So we're catching up to those on videos, and then we've got Keller's Keep to still do, Spirit Queen's Torment and Prophecy of Talor, which I should say that neither Dave or I backed the crowdfunding when it was available, because at that time we were not playing the game. So all of that stuff is brand new to us. So when we go through those quests, that's going to be a lot of fun. And then all of the other things that are planned and announced in the future, Ogre Horde, and if they come out with the Dwarf and the Wizard quest packs and all of these things, we're gonna have our hands full for a while if we want to touch on everything.
Side note: ogres have 10 body points. Period. End of story.
I am really intrigued by the European body point counter for ogres and randomizing it and seeing how that would work.
I'm the randomizing guy. What do you mean?
Yeah. Oh God. Oh.
Mad jokes.
Dave
Go ahead.
randomizes almost everything, especially in his homebrewed dungeons, but even in written out quests from quest packs. Anything that he can randomize with a die roll or somehow, he will, and good or bad, doesn't matter how it turns out. Just the fact that it wasn't planned, it was randomized. It's sometimes enough.
Yep.
So I have a dungeon I recently designed for him that we haven't gotten to play yet as of this conversation. Where
Tell
I
me
have
everything's random.
A lot of randomization. Oh yeah. A lot of.
I was really excited to run. Go ahead, Matt. Sorry.
A lot. Sorry. No. Yeah. A lot of choices for the heroes to make, where they have to decide on a certain path of action and sacrifice a different path, and then within whatever paths they choose, a lot of randomization and stuff. So I'm kind of interested in seeing his reaction to it when we get to it, and hopefully it goes well, because the last time I tried to do something like that, like we were talking about a little bit before, some homebrew things are a hit and some are a miss. I thought I came up with some good ideas, and then when we actually put them on the board, it became too much. It was the one, Dave, where we had to move like 12 doors around the quadrant of the board.
Yeah. It was
like
awesome. I did not know what was going on, and Matt was trying to maintain off the board like these doors that were rotating around the quadrant, and I was like
the doors shifted every turn, so he would have to strategize how to catch up with them and then get into the next room in the middle of a battle. But number one, when all of the doors were on the board, it was a lot to have to move physically, obviously. And number two, when he had just gotten into there and hadn't yet explored, and some of those doors were not visible, and I was trying to mentally keep track of where they would be moving. I did not plan on that when I sat down to type up that quest. So in theory, I thought it was okay, but it would certainly need a little bit of tweaking to try again. But yeah, I hope this new one fixes some of those problems.
Yeah, that'll be fun. And the other thing I'm excited about, sort of related to that, is I think that our channel has shown that there's enough people interested in this sort of content. When we catch up to the quest packs, and we're releasing videos sort of like right after the quest pack is released rather than basically years afterwards, like we'll be pretty up to date on Dread Moon, and that's part of why we shifted things around. But we're still going to be months after Dread Moon was released before we start releasing the videos. When we're caught up with the releases, I'll be interested to see how the channel grows. Like if that, because man, people seem to like unboxings. You probably know that, Ash, because you do them too. And the one that we did for Prophecy of Telor was relatively close to the second release, the release where anybody could get it. And that one we got quite a few hits on. We did a different unboxing. I'm trying to think. The Monk unboxing also got quite a few hits. That was relatively close to release. And then Dread Moon unboxing slowly accrued hits, but it wasn't like, it was later after Dread Moon had been out for a little while, because we didn't have time to get it recorded.
I don't want to point fingers, but my Dread Moon shipment arrived late.
Oh, that's right.
It wasn't.
That's right.
It wasn't exactly shipped on time. It was delayed. I don't know if a lot of people ran into that issue.
We need to start putting content creator in the notes to our orders to see if that speeds things along. All right. So yeah.
So important.
Yeah. if you have any tips on that front, Ash, we'd love to hear them.
Do you have any closing thoughts or things that you would like to share? Self-promos are fine. Take it away.
Well, I'd like to say it was really encouraging. As a new content creator, I reached out to Ash because he was one of the people when I was looking for channels that were doing HeroQuest content, one of the people that popped up. And he watched a video before I went live and shared some feedback with me. And I hope that, Ash, I don't get you bombarded with people who are like, I want to be a content creator. Can you give me feedback? Gave me some feedback that was really useful. And then has just been very encouraging along the way. So, Ash, I wanted to say thank you to you specifically for that, because it's just been like, it's really cool to kind of feel like you have a connection with somebody else who's doing this sort of thing. So, yeah, really like that. Other things I wanted to share, I'm really happy to see how much people are liking the blah, blah, blah with kids videos that we're doing. I'm going to do a video on designing with kids. So if you've got a 5-year-old who wants to design quests, I've got some ideas to help with that. But it's cool because it means that other people like us are sort of doing this stuff with their kids, trying to figure out what would make sense, how to put the board in front of them and how to play with them. So I love it. Anything else? Are we good?
Yeah, we're good. So yeah. Thank you, Ash,
Yeah.
for the support and for talking with us, and for sharing our love of the game. And
Yeah, let's do this again sometime. Really enjoy chatting with you and hope that we will cross paths more than once. I'm really looking forward to, I assume there's another quest channel coming soon. Really looking forward to that. I used some of those quests. I have a couple in my back pocket for the future. Can't wait to see what other things your creator community comes up with.
A huge thank you to AelfricHQ for this interview, and a huge thanks to everybody out there watching. Thank you all so much. I'll see you in the next episode. Until then, have a great rest of your day, and bye for now.